Mr. Flynn's legal team has reportedly stopped working alongside President Trump on issues related to the probe into Trump campaign contacts. Reza Zarrab has been held in U.S. custody since March 2016. AFP A Turkish businessman whose name has been mentioned in relation to Robert Mueller's investigation into Russia's meddling in last year's presidential election pleaded guilty on Tuesday to conspiring to evade U.S. sanctions on Iran, and plans on testifying against his codefendant. The guilty plea by Reza Zarrab could have implications for former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn if his cooperation with federal authorities also involves Mr. Mueller's investigation. Mr. Mueller is said to be scrutinizing Mr. Flynn's lobbying work in Turkey, while Mr. Zarrab's release was allegedly one of two issues that Turkish officials brought up with Mr. Flynn during a meeting last December, when Donald Trump's team was working on his transition to the White House. During that meeting, Turkish officials reportedly offered $15 million for the release of Mr. Zarrab, who has been held in U.S. custody since March 2016 alongside the extradition of exiled Turkish cleric Fethullah Gulen. Mr. Gulen is reportedly living in Pennsylvania. The Turkish government has denied that officials from the country discussed any offers of money for the extradition or release of the men, and said that it has not worked toward their goals in any extrajudicial manner. Mr. Flynn's lawyers have also denied the allegations. Out of respect for the process of the various investigations regarding the 2016 campaign, we have intentionally avoided responding to every rumor or allegation, Mr. Flynn's lawyers, led by Robert Mueller, said in a statement. But today's news cycle has brought allegations against General Flynn, ranging from kidnapping to bribery, that are so outrageous and prejudicial that we are making an exception to our usual rule. They are false. Speculation has been fueled about potential cooperation between Mr. Zarrab and Mr. Mueller's investigation because it appears unlikely that Mr. Mueller's probe would worry about securing Mr. Zarrab's help over the trial of alleged co-conspirator Mehmet Atilla, who is comparatively lower profile. Mr. Zarrab and Mr. Gulen's release has been brought up repeatedly by Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan with U.S. officials from both the administrations of President Barack Obama and Donald Trump. Mr. Zarrab will describe a multi-billion-dollar international money laundering scheme from the inside. Assistant U.S. Attorney David Denton said during his opening statement in the New York federal court trial of Mr. Atilla, the deputy general manager of Turkey's Halkbank. Mr. Attila's lawyer, Victor Rocco, told jurors in his opening statement that Mr. Zarrab was prepared to lie in order to avoid jail time and lacked credibility. U.S. prosecutors have charged 9 people in the criminal case, though only Mr. Zarrab and Mr. Attila are known to be in U.S. custody. The other defendants include the former head of Halkbank, Süleyman Özlan, and the former economy minister of Turkey, Zafer Kaglayan. Mr. Erdogan's government has said the case has been fabricated for political motives, adding to tensions between Ankara and Washington, both NATO allies. Mr. Flynn was forced to resign from his White House post weeks after Mr. Trump's inauguration, after it was determined that he misled Vice President Mike Pence about conversations he had with Russian sources. The former National Security Advisor has reportedly met with Mr. Mueller's team since then, and his legal team has distanced itself from Mr. Trump's by reportedly indicating that they could no longer engage in privileged discussions about defense strategy. That distancing has been interpreted as meaning Mr. Flynn's legal team may be discussing a possible plea deal. An email to Mr. Flynn's lawyer seeking comment on Mr. Zarrab's plea and other particulars was not immediately returned. Reuse content. We use cookies to enhance your visit to our site and to bring you advertisements that might interest you. Read our privacy and cookie policies to find out more.